A young black girl stepped into a high-end boutique when a valuable earring tumbled to the floor. She was immediately falsely accused of theft, and a prejudiced salesperson aggressively seized her, leaving a crimson mark on her cheek. Moments later, police arrived, handcuffing the girl as if she were a seasoned criminal. The salesperson's face beamed with triumph until they uncovered a crucial truth. The girl's father was the store's owner. That's when the stark realization hit them. They had made a profound error. Join us to delve into impactful narratives by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to activate the notification bell to begin your day with significant insights and genuine empathy. The late afternoon sun cast a golden hue across the streets of Atlanta, Georgia, as Maya Carter entered her father's esteemed jewelry store, Carter's Elegance. School bag slung over her shoulder, the 11-year-old's wide, inquisitive eyes surveyed the gleaming display cases brimming with dazzling treasures. Rows of diamonds, sapphires, and emeralds caught the light in captivating patterns, transforming the shop into a sparkling wonderland. Maya had always cherished her visits. To her, it wasn't merely a business, but a magical realm of beauty and dreams. Her father, Mr. Carter, took immense pride in the life he had built, a respected black business owner in the heart of Atlanta. Carter's Elegance was more than just a store. It stood as a testament to perseverance and achievement, a place embodying his family's legacy. On most days, Mr. Carter would be in his office at the rear, his steady presence offering comfort to Maya. But today he was attending an important meeting, leaving her free to explore and admire the exhibits. She didn't mind. The store felt like a second home, a sanctuary where she could immerse herself in the allure of exquisitely crafted jewelry. Maya's fingers delicately traced the glass as she paused before a particularly radiant display. A pair of diamond earrings captured her gaze, small, delicate, and shimmering like distant stars. She leaned in closer, her face almost brushing the glass, her youthful fascination evident in her expression. Unbeknownst to her, Miss Hart, the store's newest associate, was observing. A tall woman with sharp features and a rigid posture, Miss Hart had only begun working at Carter's Elegance a month prior. Maya had detected a certain frigidity in her demeanor, a subtle animosity she couldn't quite define. But today Miss Hart's disapproving stare tracked her every movement. As Maya leaned in for a closer look, her elbow inadvertently brushed the edge of the display. One of the earrings slipped from its delicate perch, falling to the floor with a soft chime. The sound made Maya freeze, her heart pounding in her chest. She quickly crouched to retrieve the earring, her small hands trembling. Before she could even touch it, a sharp voice pierced the quiet elegance of the store. "What do you imagine you're doing?" Miss Hart's tone was cutting, slicing through Maya's nervous silence like a blade. Maya looked up, startled, her wide eyes meeting Miss Hart's unyielding glare. I'm sorry," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't mean to drop it. It was an accident." Miss Hart's lips curled into a sneer, her sharp features hardening. "An accident, or were you attempting to steal it?" she snapped, her words laden with accusation. Maya's breath hitched. "No, I wasn't trying to steal," she tried to explain, but Miss Hart wasn't listening. "I've encountered your kind before," Miss Hart hissed, stepping nearer. "You don't belong in a place such as this. You believed you could simply take what you desired, didn't you?" Tears welled in Maya's eyes as she shook her head frantically. "No, I wasn't." Her words were abruptly halted by a stinging slap across her face. The sound reverberated through the store, loud and jarring. Maya stumbled backward, clutching her cheek, her small body trembling with shock and pain. She collapsed onto the cold marble floor, tears streaming down her face. Miss Hart loomed over her, breathing heavily, her hands still raised as if poised to strike again. The look in her eyes was one of disdain and cruel satisfaction, as though she had anticipated this moment. "You're nothing more than a petty thief," Miss Hart spat, her voice low and venomous. "And thieves receive what they deserve." Maya whimpered, her voice caught in her throat as she struggled to comprehend what had just transpired. Her cheek burned where Miss Hart had struck her, and her heart pounded with fear. She wanted to scream, to flee, but her body was paralyzed. Miss Hart straightened, pulling out her phone with an air of self-righteous indignation. "I'm contacting the police," she declared, her tone calm but cold. "You won't get away with this." Maya's heart sank. "No, please," she whimpered, her voice shaking. It was an accident. I didn't mean to. Silence. Miss Hart snapped, glaring down at her. I refuse to hear your falsehoods. The police will handle you. As Miss Hart made the call, her voice crisp and composed, Maya sat on the floor, hugging her knees to her chest. Her small body convulsed with silent sobs, her world spiraling out of control. The safe, magical place she had always cherished now felt like a prison, cold and stifling. When the store's door chimed moments later, 2 police officers entered, their presence filling the room with authority. They glanced at Maya, her tear-stained face and trembling form, then turned to Miss Hart, who gestured toward her with smug certainty. She's the one, Miss Hart stated, her voice dripping with disdain. Caught her red-handed trying to steal a diamond earring. The officers exchanged looks, then approached Maya. One crouched down, his eyes stern, his tone cold. Is this accurate? Did you attempt to steal that earring? Maya shook her head frantically, her tears blurring her vision. No, it was an accident. I didn't mean to drop it. The officer's expression did not soften. You'll have to come with us, he stated firmly. Maya's heart stopped. No, please, she cried, her small voice trembling. I didn't do anything. Ignoring her protests, the officers grasped her arms, pulling her to her feet. One roughly forced her hands behind her back, snapping cold metal handcuffs onto her small wrists. Maya's tears flowed freely as she cried out, No, please. I didn't steal anything. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. The officers dragged her toward the door, their grip unyielding. The sunlight glinted off the sleek black car as it pulled into the parking lot of Carter's Elegance. Mr. Marcus Carter, Maya's father, stepped out, adjusting the cuffs of his tailored suit. He carried himself with the composed confidence of a successful businessman, but beneath his calm exterior, his thoughts lingered on the meeting he had just exited, another stride in expanding his burgeoning jewelry brand. As he neared the store, his phone vibrated. It was a message from his assistant about an upcoming shipment. He quickly texted back, his mind already shifting to the tasks ahead. But just as he reached the entrance, something made him stop abruptly. A police car sat parked near the curb, its lights flashing, the bright red and blue reflections bouncing off the store's glass windows. His heart skipped a beat. Why were the police here? His mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. And then he saw her. Through the large glass doors, 2 officers emerged, one gripping the arm of a young girl in handcuffs. Her head hung low, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. It took him a moment to process what he was witnessing, but when he recognized the small figure being led toward the squad car, his world seemed to tilt on its axis. It was Maya. His daughter. For a moment, Marcus was frozen in disbelief. This couldn't be happening. Why was his little girl in handcuffs? What conceivable reason could there be for this nightmare unfolding before him? Then, as if a dam had burst within him, he moved. He was across the parking lot in seconds, his long strides carrying him toward the officers. His voice boomed, sharp and filled with fury. Excuse me. What the hell is happening here? The officers halted, turning to face the approaching man. Marcus's presence was commanding, his broad shoulders squared, and his face set in a mask of controlled anger. Maya, hearing her father's voice, looked up, her tear-streaked face breaking his heart all over again. Daddy, she cried, her voice trembling with fear and relief. Marcus's gaze softened for the briefest moment as he locked eyes with his daughter, but the fire in his chest reignited when he saw the handcuffs biting into her small wrists. He turned to the officers, his voice firm and unyielding. Remove those handcuffs from my daughter immediately. One of the officers, clearly taken aback, raised a placating hand. Sir, we're just responding to a report of theft. A report of theft? Marcus cut him off, his voice rising. Are you seriously telling me you're arresting an 11-year-old girl on suspicion of stealing in my store? The second officer frowned, his expression uncertain. Sir, we were informed by an employee that... Marcus's eyes narrowed, his tone ice cold. An employee who? At that moment, Miss Hart appeared in the doorway of the store, her arms crossed and her face a mixture of defiance and unease. Marcus's gaze snapped to her, and the realization struck him like a lightning bolt. Of course it was her. The new hire. He had sensed something amiss about her from the beginning, but he had dismissed those doubts, trusting that professionalism would outweigh any personal bias. Query, he had been wrong. You, he said, his voice low and dangerous as he pointed at Miss Hart. You're the one who called the police on my daughter? Miss Hart hesitated, her confidence faltering under Marcus's intense stare. Mr. Carter, I was just doing my job. She dropped one of the earrings and I thought she was trying to steal it. I had to act quickly. You had to act quickly? Marcus interrupted, his voice shaking with barely contained fury. By slapping a child? By accusing her without proof? By putting her through this humiliation? Miss Hart's face paled. I didn't know she was your daughter, she stammered as if that excused her actions. It doesn't matter if she's my daughter or not. Marcus's voice thundered. You treated an innocent child like a criminal based on your own prejudices, and you called the police before even bothering to find out the truth. The officers shifted uncomfortably, exchanging uneasy glances. One of them finally spoke, his tone more cautious now. Sir, we were just responding to the report. We didn't realize. You didn't realize because you didn't bother to ask. Marcus snapped, his frustration boiling over. You took her word as fact and decided that my daughter, an 11-year-old girl, was guilty without a second thought. He turned back to the officers, his voice deadly calm. Remove the handcuffs now. This time the officers didn't hesitate. One quickly retrieved the key and unlocked the cuffs, freeing Maya's wrists. She immediately ran into her father's arms, clutching him tightly as fresh tears streamed down her face. Marcus knelt down, holding her close and whispering words of comfort. It's okay, baby girl. Daddy's here. You're safe now. He pulled back slightly, gently cupping her tear-streaked face in his hands. Are you hurt? Maya sniffled, her voice trembling. She slapped me, Daddy. I didn't do anything. I just wanted to look at the earrings. Marcus's chest tightened, the raw pain in his daughter's voice igniting a fire inside him. He kissed her forehead gently. I know, sweetheart. I know you didn't do anything wrong. Straightening, he turned back to Miss Hart and the officers, his protective instinct and righteous anger on full display. This is far from over, he said, his voice cutting through the tense silence. Miss Hart, you're fired, effective immediately. Get out of my store. Miss Hart opened her mouth to protest, but one look at Marcus's steely gaze silenced her. She turned and hurried away, her head bowed in shame. And as for you too, Marcus said, his eyes locking on the officers, I want a full explanation of why my daughter was treated this way and who authorized it. You'll be hearing from my attorney. The officers nodded, their earlier confidence replaced by visible discomfort. We understand, sir. We'll file a report and investigate what happened. You better, Marcus said firmly. Because this isn't just about my daughter. This is about how you handle your responsibilities. You owe her an apology and you owe me answers. Inside Carter's elegance, the polished surfaces and sparkling jewelry that once symbolized Marcus Carter's pride now felt tarnished. The store, a legacy he had built with his own hands, had become the scene of his daughter's unjust humiliation. Maya sat on a plush chair behind the counter, still trembling as her father gently wiped her tear-streaked face with a handkerchief. It's going to be okay, baby girl, Marcus whispered, his tone soft yet resolute. I promise you. But inside his anger boiled. This wasn't just about Maya. This was about every child who had ever been treated unfairly, about every moment someone had been judged based on the color of their skin rather than the content of their character. He turned back to the store floor where Miss Hart's absence left a palpable void. The police officers remained near the doorway, their earlier authority diminished under Marcus's piercing gaze. Let's get a few things straight, Marcus began, addressing the officers with a voice that was calm but charged with a quiet fury. What happened here today is unacceptable. Not only did you act on a false report without verifying it, but you also handcuffed an innocent child, my child. The young officer, Officer Harris, nodded, his face flushed with regret. Sir, we're deeply sorry for how things unfolded. We responded based on the information we were given, and that's the problem. Marcus cut him off sharply. You responded to bias. You let assumptions guide your actions instead of facts. You didn't ask my daughter what happened, you didn't question Miss Hart's account, you just assumed. The older officer, Officer Raymond, shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Carter, we understand your frustration and will include your concerns in our report. We'll also file a statement about Miss Hart's conduct. That's not enough, Marcus interrupted. I'm not just looking for a statement. I want accountability, for her, for you, and for the entire process that allowed this to happen." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. They could see Marcus's determination, and they knew this wasn't a fight he was going to back down from. "I want the body cam footage from today," Marcus continued. "I want every word, every action documented, and I want to make sure this incident doesn't disappear into some bureaucratic void." The officers nodded, their earlier defensiveness replaced by a genuine acknowledgement of their mistakes. "We'll make sure everything is documented properly," Officer Harris said. "We'll escalate this to our superior officers and ensure it's handled appropriately." Marcus folded his arms across his chest, his gaze unrelenting. "Good. Because if it's not, I'll make sure it is. Believe me, this isn't the end of it." The officers took their leave shortly after, their departure leaving a tense silence in the store. Marcus stood for a moment, his hands on his hips as he stared at the door. He felt the weight of what had happened settle on his shoulders, but he also felt a spark of determination igniting within him. This wasn't just about seeking justice for Maya. It was about confronting the biases and prejudices that had led to this moment. He wouldn't stop until every person involved was held accountable, and he wouldn't until he ensured this wouldn't happen to anyone else. Later that afternoon, Marcus sat in his office at the back of the store. His laptop was open and he was already drafting emails to his legal team. He described the events in vivid detail, ensuring that every action Miss Hart and the officers had taken was documented. Surveillance footage from the store had already been saved to a secure drive, capturing every moment of Miss Hart's false accusations and Maya's tearful pleas. As he typed, his phone buzzed. It was a message from one of his longtime employees, Clara. She had been working the morning shift and had witnessed the incident from the back office, but hadn't been able to intervene in time. "Mr. Carter," the message read, "I'm so sorry for what happened to Maya. I should have stepped in sooner. I'm available to provide a statement if needed. Please let me know how I can help." Marcus felt a surge of gratitude. Clara's testimony, combined with the surveillance footage, would provide an irrefutable account of what had occurred. But he knew this was about more than just the immediate incident. He needed to address the deeper issues, within his store, within the police department, and within the community. He picked up the phone and called his attorney, Sarah Mitchell, a civil rights advocate known for her unrelenting pursuit of justice. When she answered, Marcus wasted no time. "Sarah, I need your help," he said, his voice steady. "This isn't just about my daughter. It's about making sure this never happens again." The next day, word of the incident began to spread. Clara, horrified by what had happened, shared her account on social media, detailing the events from her perspective. Her post quickly gained traction, with dozens of comments expressing outrage and support for Marcus and Maya. Local news outlets picked up the story, framing it as a shocking example of racial bias and systemic failure. Headlines read, "11-year-old girl handcuffed in father's store over false accusation," and "Jewelry store owner demands justice after daughter's humiliation." Marcus agreed to a brief interview with a local reporter, where he shared his commitment to seeking justice for Maya and addressing the broader issues of discrimination and accountability. "This isn't just about my daughter," he said firmly. "This is about every child, every person who has ever been treated unfairly because of the color of their skin. It's about making sure our systems, whether in retail, law enforcement, or society at large, don't enable this kind of behavior." As the story gained national attention, Marcus began to receive messages of support from community leaders, activists, and even strangers. A local advocacy group reached out, offering to assist in organizing a public forum to discuss racial bias and justice. For Marcus, the momentum was bittersweet. He appreciated the support, but every interview, every retelling of the incident was a painful reminder of what Maya had endured. Yet he knew that staying silent wasn't an option. The spark had been lit, and Marcus Carter was determined to fan it into a flame that could burn through the barriers of prejudice. He would stand for his daughter, for his community, and for a future where no child would ever have to endure what Maya had faced. The fight was just beginning. The Carter family's fight for justice gained momentum, propelling them into the center of a growing movement. Marcus Carter's story, one of heartbreak, resilience, and determination, resonated far beyond the walls of his jewelry store. The injustice faced by his daughter, Maya, became a rallying cry for change, and the community, fueled by anger and solidarity, rallied behind them. The day after Marcus's interview aired, police formally charged Miss Hart with assault, child endangerment, and filing a false police report. Surveillance footage and witness testimony were undeniable. The charges sent a ripple through the community. Some defended Miss Hart, citing her fear and misjudgment, but most were appalled, especially when the full extent of her actions came to light. Public backlash against Miss Hart was swift. The jewelry store, once a symbol of luxury and elegance, became a focal point for discussions about prejudice and accountability. Activists organized peaceful demonstrations outside, holding signs with messages like, "Justice for Maya," and "Bias stops here." Inside his office, Marcus Carter observed the unfolding events with mixed emotions. While he was relieved to see Miss Hart being held accountable, his focus remained on the larger issues. "This isn't just about one person," he told a reporter. "It's about a system that allowed this to happen in the first place." Lieutenant Harris followed through on his promise to investigate the actions of the officers who had handcuffed Maya. The body cam footage, combined with their own testimonies, painted a troubling picture of snap judgments based on racial bias. The department faced mounting pressure from community leaders and the media to address systemic issues within its ranks. A public statement was issued acknowledging the mishandling of the situation and pledging to implement changes, including mandatory bias training for all officers and a review of protocols for responding to incidents involving minors. For Marcus, the apology wasn't enough. He met with Lieutenant Harris and the department's leadership to push for further reform. "This isn't about a one-time training," he insisted. "This is about rebuilding trust with the community you're supposed to protect." As news of the incident spread, support for Marcus and Maya poured in from across the country. Letters, emails, and social media posts flooded in, many sharing similar stories of prejudice and injustice. One letter from a young girl in California stood out to Marcus. "Dear Mr. Carter, I'm 12 years old and I saw what happened to your daughter on the news. I felt scared in stores before too because people look at me like I don't belong. Thank you for standing up for her and for kids like me." The letter brought tears to Marcus's eyes and strengthened his resolve. He decided to host a community forum at the store, inviting families, activists, and local leaders to discuss how they could work together to create a safer and more inclusive environment. The night of the forum, Carter's elegance was filled with people from all walks of life. The store, which had once been a scene of injustice, now became a space for healing and dialogue. Marcus stood at the front, addressing the crowd with Maya by his side. "This isn't just about what happened to my daughter," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "It's about what happens to so many others every day, kids, adults, families who are judged and mistreated because of the way they look. It has to stop." Maya, though shy, spoke briefly. "I was scared," she admitted, her voice quiet but firm. "But my dad told me that I didn't do anything wrong and he promised to protect me. I think we all have to protect each other." Her words brought the room to a hushed silence, followed by a standing ovation. The moment was powerful, a reminder of why they were all there. The forum led to actionable steps. Marcus partnered with local organizations to fund anti-bias education in schools and police departments. He also established a scholarship program in Maya's name to support young students pursuing careers in criminal justice and community advocacy. National attention continued to grow, with Marcus invited to speak at conferences and events. His message was clear. Systemic change required collective effort, and every person had a role to play in creating a fairer world. The ripple effects of Maya's ordeal and Marcus Carter's unwavering fight for justice continued to resonate deeply, transforming pain into a powerful movement for change. The family, the community, and even institutions began to rebuild, with a renewed focus on equity, accountability, and healing. The trial of Miss Hart was swift. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Security footage showing her assaulting Maya, her call to the police laced with prejudice, and testimony from Marcus and other witnesses. The jury deliberated for less than a day before returning a guilty verdict. Miss Hart was sentenced to prison time for assaulting a minor, filing a false police report, and endangering a child. For Marcus, the verdict wasn't about vengeance. It was about ensuring accountability. Justice had been served, but he knew there was still work to be done to address the systemic biases that had allowed the incident to escalate. Following the forum and Marcus's advocacy, tangible changes began to take shape. The police department implemented mandatory bias training and updated its protocols for handling incidents involving minors. Community oversight committees were established, giving residents a voice and ensuring accountability. Marcus also worked with local business owners to create a program that provided anti-bias training for employees, helping to foster a more inclusive environment in stores across the city. Carter's elegance became a model for these efforts, proudly displaying a sign in the window that read, "All are welcome here." Inspired by the flood of support from across the country, Marcus launched the Maya Carter Scholarship Fund. The program was designed to support young people who aspired to work in law, social justice, or community advocacy. At the launch event, Maya stood beside her father, smiling shyly as he announced the program. "This scholarship isn't just about what happened to my daughter," Marcus said to the gathered crowd. "It's about building a future where no child has to face what she faced, a future built on understanding, fairness, and opportunity." The fund quickly gained momentum with donations pouring in from individuals, corporations, and community leaders. The first scholarship recipients included a young woman pursuing a degree in criminal justice and a teenager who had started a nonprofit focused on racial equity and education. For Maya, life slowly began to return to normal. While the scars of that day didn't disappear overnight, her father's steadfast support and the outpouring of love from the community helped her regain her confidence. She returned to school, joined her favorite art club, and even spoke at a few events, sharing her story with quiet strength. At home, Marcus made sure that Maya knew she was safe and loved. "You're braver than you realize," he often told her, reminding her of the courage she had shown in the face of injustice. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Maya looked up at her father and said, "Daddy, I want to help people like you do." Marcus's heart swelled with pride. "You already are, baby girl," he said, hugging her tightly. The impact of the Carters' fight for justice extended far beyond their city. National organizations took note of their advocacy, inviting Marcus to speak at conferences and events about the importance of addressing systemic bias. He became a prominent voice in the movement, using his platform to push for broader reforms. News outlets followed their journey, documenting how one family's determination had sparked a wave of change. Marcus often reflected on the journey, humbled by how far they had come. "This isn't just about us," he would say. "It's about creating a world where every child is treated with dignity and respect." A year later, Carter's Elegance celebrated its grand reopening. The store had undergone renovations not just to its design but also to its mission. Marcus had created a dedicated space within the store for community events, educational workshops, and conversations about equity. At the reopening, Marcus stood with Maya in front of a crowd of supporters, employees, and friends. "This store was built on hard work and dreams," he said. "Today it stands for something even greater, a commitment to justice, inclusion, and the belief that we all have a part to play in making our world better." Maya, now more confident, took the microphone and added, "Thank you for standing with us. Together we can make sure no one else has to go through what I did." The crowd erupted in applause, and as father and daughter stood together, they felt a sense of hope and renewal. The Carter family's story became a symbol of resilience and the power of community. Through their efforts, they had not only secured justice for Maya but also laid the groundwork for lasting change. And while the scars of that day remained, they were now a reminder of how far they had come and the strength they had found in each other. As Marcus and Maya locked up the store that evening, the city skyline glowing softly in the distance, Marcus placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. "We've come a long way," he said. Maya looked up at him, her face full of hope. "And we're just getting started." Together they walked into the future, ready to face whatever came next with strength, courage, and the unshakable belief that justice would always prevail. And now join the movement for justice. Subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and make these stories a part of your daily life. Together we can create change.